Hey folks, welcome back to the Stoic journey. I can clearly see it. You're out here begging for their attention, constantly making plans to attract them, to make them laugh, even bending over backward to keep them interested. And what's this doing to you? You've completely lost sight of your own worth. You're leaving your life, your value, right there on the table for someone who doesn't even see it. And my friend, that's where you've got it all wrong. What are you doing to yourself? Seriously, don't you see your own value? Do you really think running after them, chasing them, begging for their attention is going to change a damn thing? Wake up. They won't miss you. They won't value you. And they sure as hell won't come crawling back when you're always there, desperate for a glimpse of their approval. You've done it all, haven't you? And where has it gotten you? Absolutely nowhere. You think attracting them, getting them to love you, is going to complete you. Is that it? Do you really believe that someone else's approval is what's going to fix your broken self-esteem? Because let me tell you, if you think that's what makes you whole, you're dead wrong. You're not a stoic by chasing them. You're not powerful by giving your energy away like it's worthless. Where's your backbone? Where's your self-respect? When you're constantly seeking their validation, you're telling them you don't have any value unless they give it to you. And guess what? That's why they don't value you. Seneca said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And right now, your imagination is killing you. You're imagining that if you just keep trying, they'll eventually see your worth. But here's the truth, they won't. Not until you pull back, not until you stop groveling, not until you show them that you're fine without them. Do you want them to start missing you? Then stop trying to make them. Stop thinking their love is the missing piece in your life. Walk away. Let them feel your absence, because that's when they'll realize what they've lost. But right now, you're giving them every reason to forget you. I know it's going to be difficult. I know right now they're all over your mind, consuming your thoughts. You're probably thinking about them constantly, wondering if they're thinking about you, replaying every moment. But you have to do this. You have to step back, because in this fast-paced world, no one values the person who's always there, always available, always waiting for a scrap of attention. And the hard truth, they probably prefer it that way. In fact, let's get real, they're likely using you. You're convenient, you're easy, and while they're enjoying the attention you give, they're looking elsewhere. They're looking at someone who knows their worth, someone who doesn't need their validation to feel complete. They're drawn to someone with a life full of passion, someone who isn't waiting around for them to decide their worth. They're attracted to strength, to independence, to the person who doesn't care whether they stay or go, because they know they'll be fine either way. That's who they're looking at, and that's who you could be. But right now, you're letting yourself be used, and they see it. So why would they respect you? Why would they value you when you're not even valuing yourself? Stop being so damn available. Start showing them what it feels like to miss you. Show them what it's like when you stop being their backup plan and start living like someone who knows their own worth. And how are you going to do this? How are you going to make them start missing you the most? That's exactly what we're diving into today. You'll be amazed at how powerful this shift is. It's not just some modern-day tactic. This wisdom runs deep. Our ancient legends, the Stoics themselves, knew the value of detachment, of stepping back to let others feel the weight of your absence. They understood the art of making people realize your worth by not constantly being there. The truth is, when you stop pouring all your energy into someone who takes you for granted, when you pull back and refocus that energy on yourself, they'll notice. They'll feel it. And trust me, that's when they'll start missing you in ways you never imagined. The more you hold your own, the more they crave what they've lost. Today, we're going to break down exactly how to apply this ancient wisdom to your modern life. So get ready, because things are about to change, and you're going to see just how powerful you truly are when you stop chasing and make them chase you. So now, it's time to hit ourselves with an affirmation. As our wise Stoic friend once said, first, say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. So close your eyes and affirm with me, I refuse to beg. Feel it, folks. Let that sink in. Let it burn inside you, and don't just stop here. Take it a step further. Go throw it out in the comments. Let the universe see exactly where you stand. No longer the one chasing. No longer the one begging. This is your moment. And now, are you ready to dive into the 10 things that will happen when you decide to give them the absence treatment? Trust me, this is where the real shift begins. Let's music go. Number 1. They feel overlooked and invisible. So folks, you've decided to give them the absence treatment. Finally, you've made that critical choice to stop chasing, stop begging, and stop being the one who's always there for someone who clearly doesn't value you the way you deserve. Let's be honest, at first, they might not even notice. That's right. They're so used to your constant presence, to having you at their disposal, that it's going to take a moment for them to realize something's different. It's like air. You don't notice it until it's gone. You've been the air they breathe, and when that suddenly vanishes, that's when they start to panic. But let's be real, this isn't easy. Walking away, pulling back, giving them the absence treatment is going to feel like tearing yourself apart. You've spent so much time and energy trying to keep them in your life, trying to hold on, and now you're stepping away. Your mind will mess with you. Thoughts will flood in, like, what if this makes them pull away even more? Or, what if they forget me altogether? That's fear talking. That's the fear of losing something that was never truly in your grasp to begin with. You have to push through that. Why? Because when you keep giving, when you're always there, when you never leave room for them to miss you, they start to believe they're the center of your world and that you'll never walk away. That's why they don't notice your absence at first. They think you'll be back. But when you don't return, when they start realizing that the dynamic has shifted, that's when it hits them like a slap to the face. Think about it. Imagine someone in your life who's always there, always making plans, always calling, always trying to get your attention, and then one day they just stop. At first, you're probably thinking, oh, they'll call me later, or they're just busy. But days go by, weeks even, and still nothing. How does that feel? Suddenly, that person who you used to barely acknowledge has become the one thing you can't stop thinking about. You start to wonder why they stopped reaching out. What changed? Did something happen? Are they upset with you? That's exactly how they'll feel when you pull back. When you take away your presence, you leave a void, and that void makes them feel invisible. They'll start to question themselves. They'll start to wonder why you're no longer around. And here's the kicker. They'll miss the attention they once took for granted. You were the one who made them feel important, seen, valued, and now that's gone. They're left standing in the dark, wondering what happened to the spotlight that was always on them. Now let's get deeper into this. Why do they feel invisible? It's because they've built their sense of worth, at least partially, on the attention you've been giving them. When you pull that away, they're forced to face themselves without the buffer of your validation. They'll start to feel small, insignificant. This isn't about you playing games. This is about making them realize the importance of what they've been ignoring. You're not some backup plan, some second thought. You're a person with value, and they're about to see that value in a way they never have before. But let me ask you, what if it's hard? What if every part of you is screaming to reach out, to check in, to just send that one little text? This is where the real battle happens inside you. You'll feel that pull, that desire to go back to what's familiar, even though it hurts. Your mind will try to convince you that walking away is a mistake, that maybe they'll move on if you don't keep trying. This is your fear talking, not your power. Fear keeps you stuck in a loop, chasing after something that never valued you in the first place. And here's the harsh truth. The more you chase, the more they run. The more available you are, the less they respect you. People value what they fear losing. If you're always there, always accessible, they will never feel the need to chase after you. They'll never realize what it's like to be without you, and that's why the absence treatment works. It forces them to confront that fear. It forces them to feel invisible, just like they made you feel for so long. Imagine this. You've been the steady light in their life, always shining. They've been basking in your warmth, assuming it'll always be there, and now the light's gone. What happens when the light goes out? They feel cold, alone, like something crucial has been taken away from them. And that's exactly what they'll feel when you give them the absence treatment. They'll feel invisible because they never truly appreciated the presence you gave them. Now, let's flip the script. What happens if you don't walk away? What if you keep showing up, keep trying, keep begging for their attention? You'll teach them one thing. They can keep using you, keep ignoring you, because you'll never leave. You'll be stuck in a cycle where your worth is tied to their validation, and guess what? They'll never give you the validation you crave. Why would they? You've already shown them that you'll settle for scraps. That's why you have to pull back. You have to let them feel your absence. It may feel impossible at first, like you're walking away from something you desperately want, but that's the illusion. What you want is their respect, their attention, and you won't get that by always being there. By stepping back, you force them to realize what they've lost. They start to feel invisible in your world, and that's when they'll start chasing you. You have to do this. It's going to be hard, and it's going to hurt at first. Every instinct inside you will tell you that walking away will push them further away. But the truth is, it's the only way to make them see your value. They won't feel your worth until they feel your absence. And that absence, it's going to hit them like a freight train. So here's your affirmation for today. I no longer chase. Let it sink in. Feel it in your bones. And if you're ready, drop it in the comments. Let the world and the universe know where you stand. You are no longer chasing, no longer begging, no longer waiting for their validation. You're walking away, and trust me, they're going to feel it. Number 2, their daily routines start falling apart. So folks, after you've decided to give them the absence treatment, the next thing that happens, their daily routines start falling apart. Now, I know this sounds dramatic, but trust me, it's real. People thrive on routine, habits, patterns, knowing what to expect, and when someone has you as their constant, as their safety net, they build their life around that, maybe without even realizing it. But when you're on that steady rhythm they've been relying on, starts to falter, at first they'll try to carry on like everything's normal. They might brush off your absence, thinking they'll come back. They always do, but as days pass and you're nowhere to be found, it hits them. Not all at once, but in those quiet, mundane moments of life. The moments where they used to expect you, where they relied on your presence to add that extra layer of comfort or validation, and now there's nothing, just silence. Now, let's make one thing clear. This isn't about you sitting around waiting for them to notice. Hell no. This is where you stand strong. You're not sitting by the phone, hoping they realize what's missing. No, you've moved on to focusing on yourself, your growth, your path. You're not waiting for their validation anymore because you've found your own. That's the real power here. You're not in the shadows hoping they miss you. You're out there living your life, with or without them. Meanwhile, on their end, they're struggling to figure out why things feel off. It's subtle at first. Maybe they don't have that person to vent to after a long day. Maybe they don't receive that good morning text that made them feel important. But it's more than just missing a message. It's a disruption in their emotional routine. They're realizing that you were a source of stability, and now that stability is gone. And it messes with them, even if they don't admit it. It's like a car that suddenly starts running on low fuel. It still moves, but not as smoothly, not as efficiently. They find themselves distracting Ed, unable to focus, and they start losing that easy confidence they had when they knew you were always there. They'll start to question themselves. Did I mess up? Why aren't they reaching out? And those questions start creeping in during the most random parts of their day, while they're at work, while they're out with friends, even in the middle of conversations with other people. That's your absence working its magic. And here's the thing, you're not sitting around trying to guess when they'll crack. You're not playing the waiting game. That's what's so crucial. You've moved beyond them, and that's what they'll start to feel. They'll start to sense that you're not just taking a break. You're actually living your life without them. You're not available anymore, and that's what really shakes them. They might not be checking their phone constantly in the beginning, but eventually, they will. It starts with casual curiosity, but soon it becomes a need. They'll start thinking, what are they doing? Or why haven't I heard from them? It's that knowing doubt that begins to eat away at their confidence. Their routine was built on the foundation of knowing you were always there. When that foundation crumbles, everything else starts to follow. Now let's talk about where you are in all of this. You're not just some placeholder in their life. You've got things to do, goals to achieve, and people who value your presence. You've stepped out of the shadows, and you're no longer the person they expect to be waiting in the wings. This is the real game, Cher. You've stopped basing your self-worth on their attention, and now you're thriving without it. But don't think for a second they're not noticing. As their routine starts to fall apart, they'll realize something critical. They weren't as independent as they thought. They relied on you more than they'd ever admit. You were their emotional support, their constant, and now that's gone. They'll find themselves stumbling through the day, trying to fill the gaps where you once stood. And the harder they try, the more they'll realize that no one else quite fits the role you played. They'll start searching for someone else to fill that void. But guess what? It won't work, because people like you don't come around every day. You brought a unique value to their life, and your absence is a stark reminder of that. Now they're left trying to piece together a routine that's crumbling, and they can't figure out why everything feels out of sync. And here's the kicker. While their life is slowly falling apart, you're building yours. You're not sitting there wondering when they'll reach out. You're not holding your breath, hoping for a message. You're moving forward, and in doing so, you're shifting the balance. The power isn't in their hands anymore, it's in yours. So let them feel it. Let them deal with the consequences of taking you for granted. They'll start to notice the cracks in their day, the moments where you used to be. They'll try to fill those cracks, but it won't be the same. Their routines, their habits, their very sense of stability will continue to fall apart. And all the while, you'll be thriving. Hang in there, because next we'll explore how they feel the sharp sting of loneliness without you. It's about to get even more intense, so stay tuned. You're going to want to hear this. Number 3, they feel the sharp sting of loneliness. So folks, after you've stepped back and given them the absence treatment, there comes a point when they start to feel something they've been avoiding for a while, the sharp sting of loneliness. This is the moment when reality hits them. You were the constant, the one who filled up their empty moments, and now that space is filled with silence. And trust me, silence can be deafening. At first, they'll try to brush it off. Maybe they'll distract themselves with other people, with things that make them feel important. But it doesn't take long for them to realize something's missing. The noise, the attention, the validation, they're all temporary. The one person who truly made them feel grounded, who gave them consistent energy, is no longer there. And that void, it starts to gorge at them. It's important to understand that loneliness is more than just missing someone. It's the feeling of being disconnected, like something crucial is absent from their life. When you've been their emotional anchor, the person who gave them support without asking for much in return, they'll start to feel that emptiness in ways they didn't expect. Suddenly, they're not surrounded by people who genuinely care. They're not getting that thoughtful message or call from you. The world feels a little colder, a little more distant. The thing is, they never thought they'd feel lonely because they always had your attention on tap. They took you for granted, never imagining a world where you wouldn't be there, waiting eager to be part of their life. But now they're left with their own company, and it's not as comforting as they thought it would be. Loneliness isn't just about being alone. It's about realizing that the person who used to fill those empty spaces, who gave their time and energy freely, is gone. The sharp sting comes when they recognize that they're surrounded by noise but feel more alone than ever. They'll try to find comfort in superficial connections, but they won't be able to shake the feeling that something deeper is missing. And that's you. They might try to reach out to others to fill that void, but it won't work. You can't place genuine connection with distractions, and that's exactly what they'll come to realize. They'll be surrounded by people, but feel completely isolated because the person who made them feel seen and understood is no longer available. That's when the loneliness hits hard. They'll start to reflect on the times you were there for them, the moments you filled their life with meaning, with real connection. They'll think back to when you were the one who listened, who showed up, who cared without expecting anything in return. And now, that's gone. They're left with a hollow feeling that no one else can fill. This is the power of your absence. It forces them to confront what they've lost, and that realization is painful. They start to understand that they didn't just lose someone who cared, they lost someone who gave their life substance, who made them feel like they weren't alone in this world. Now they're left with their own thoughts, their own loneliness, and it stings. Here's the truth. Loneliness isn't just a consequence of being alone. It's a consequence of losing someone valuable, and you, my friend, are valuable. They'll start to realize that, but by then, it might be too late. The sting of loneliness is their burden to bear now, and it's a harsh reminder of what they had and took for granted. So stand strong in this moment. It's tough, I know, but this is where the shift happens. They'll feel it deep down, and they'll know they've lost something irreplaceable. Here's your affirmation. I stand strong. Let it sink in. Drop it in the comments and let the world know that you're no longer the one filling someone else's empty spaces. You're standing firm, living for yourself, and letting them deal with the sting of their own loneliness. Don't go anywhere, because this loneliness is only the start. Next, we're talking about how they'll start comparing everyone to you, and trust me, this is where your power really shines. Stay with me, folks. It's important. Number 4, they start comparing everyone to you. So folks, after you've stepped back and given them the absence treatment, something even more powerful begins to unfold. They start comparing everyone to you. This is where the real shift happens. At first, they might have thought they could easily replace you, find someone else to fill the void, keep them entertained, or make them feel validated. But here's the harsh reality for them. No one else measures up. It begins subtly. Maybe they meet someone new or they spend more time with other people, trying to fill the gap you left. But soon, they realize that something feels off. The new people they interact with might be fun or entertaining, but there's something missing. It's that connection, that depth, that realness that only you brought into their life. They start to notice that the way others speak to them, treat them, or even the way they laugh just doesn't hit the same. They start comparing everyone to you. They might not admit it out loud, but internally, it's a constant. They'll find themselves thinking, they don't get me like they did, or they don't make me feel the way I felt with them. And slowly but surely, they start to realize that what they had with you wasn't so easy to replace. You set a standard, and now no one else can reach it. You see, you were more than just someone to talk to or spend time with. You were someone who brought value into their life, who challenged them, made them feel understood, and most importantly, made them feel seen. And now that you're gone, they're stuck trying to find that same feeling in people who just don't have the same depth. It's like trying to replace a gourmet meal with fast food. It might fill them up for a while, but it doesn't satisfy them in the same way. Every time they meet someone new or try to distract themselves, they're constantly reminded of what they had with you. That's the power of the absence treatment. It forces them to face the reality that you're irreplaceable, and trust me, they feel it. They'll find themselves in conversations with others and suddenly think, this isn't how we used to talk, or they don't understand me the way they did. They'll notice how shallow other relationships feel compared to what you gave them, and that's where the comparisons start piling up. They might even start questioning why they didn't appreciate you more when they had the chance. But by the time they realize that, it's already too late. Here's the thing. You set the bar high. You gave them something real, your time, your energy, your authenticity, and that's not something people find every day. The more they interact with others, the more they'll start to see the differences, and those differences will eat away at them. Every time they try to move on, they'll keep hitting that wall of comparison, and no one will match up to you. They'll keep thinking, why can't I find someone like them? But guess what? That's not your problem anymore. While they're stuck preparing everyone to you, you're living your life, moving forward. You're not waiting for them to realize what they lost. You've already leveled up. You've shown them through your absence that they'll never find someone like you, and now every relationship they try to form will be haunted by the memory of what you brought into their life. The beauty of this moment is that you're no longer in the picture, but your impact is still being felt. Every time they compare someone to you and realize they fall short, it's another reminder of your value. It's another piece of evidence that they let something good slip through their fingers. Let them compare. Let them struggle with the reality that no one else will measure up. You've left a mark, and it's not going away. They'll keep searching, Keep hoping they'll find another you, but deep down, they'll know it's a lost. 'Cause here's your affirmation: no one compares to me. Drop it in the comments and let the world know where you stand. You're not just another face in the crowd. They'll keep comparing everyone to you and realizing that no one else measures up. Let them feel it, because they lost someone irreplaceable, and now they're stuck chasing shadows of what you once gave them. This is huge, but it's not over yet. Stick with me, because up next, we'll dive into the emotional turmoil they start struggling with. You'll see just how much your absence is shaking them up, so don't miss out. Number 5, they struggle with emotional turmoil. So folks, after you've stepped back and given them the absence treatment, something else starts to happen. They begin to struggle with emotional turmoil. And let me tell you, it's not pretty. You see, when you were in their life, you were the steady force, the one who brought calm, who balanced things out. But now that you're gone, they're left to deal with the emotional mess on their own, and it's hitting them harder than they ever expected. At first, they'll try to play it cool, act like nothing's wrong, like your absence doesn't bother them. But here's the thing. Deep down, they feel it. They feel the weight of the emotional void you left behind, and it's starting to tear them apart. They might not show it on the surface, but underneath, they're a wreck. When you were around, they didn't have to face their emotions head on. You were there to support them, to listen to them, to make them feel like everything would be okay. Now that you're gone, they have no choice but to confront those emotions on their own. And let me tell you, it's not easy for them. They start to feel the anxiety, the guilt, the regret, all the things they buried when they took you for granted. They start to question themselves. Did I make a mistake? Why am I feeling like this now that they're gone? That's emotional turmoil. It's the storm that rages inside when they realize they've lost something important, something they didn't appreciate until it was too late. Now they're left trying to make sense of it all, but they can't. They're consumed by confusion and regret, and it's eating them alive. Here's what's happening. They're feeling the consequences of their own actions. They're realizing that the emotional security you provided wasn't something they could just replace. They might try to distract themselves, maybe even get involved with other people, but none of it works. Those emotions are still there, lurking in the background, making them feel unstable, unbalanced. They can't shake it off because they know, deep down, that they messed up. And as the emotional turmoil grows, they might even start to panic. They'll think, what if they've moved on? What if I've lost them for good? Those thoughts will circle in their mind, and every time they try to escape them, they'll be pulled right back into the storm. Your absence is forcing them to face their own emotional reality, and it's something they never prepared for. While they're struggling with this chaos, guess what? You're not. You've already done the hard work of walking away, of standing strong. Now you're living your life free of the emotional baggage they left behind. They're the ones drowning in it now, and that's not your problem anymore. Here's your affirmation. I release their chaos. Drop it in the comments and let the world know where you stand. You've let go of their emotional mess, and now it's their turn to deal with the storm they created. We're deep into it now, but you can't stop here. Stay with me, because next we're going to talk about how they can't escape seeing happy couples everywhere. It's going to hit them hard. This is important. Number 6. They can't escape seeing happy couples. So folks, after you've stepped back and given them the absence treatment, something else starts to happen, something they can't run from. Everywhere they look, they can't escape seeing happy couples, And let me tell you, this one cuts deep. They start noticing those couples holding hands, laughing, enjoying each other's company, and it reminds them of something they lost. You. At first, they might not think much of it, but as time passes, the sight of happy couples becomes a constant, painful reminder. It's like life is rubbing it in their face. They see what they had with you, what they took for granted, and it stings. The universe has a funny way of showing us what we've lost, doesn't it? Maybe they're out with friends, maybe they're just scrolling through social media, but there's no escaping it. Everywhere they turn, they see people enjoying the kind of connection they once had, but didn't value enough. It's a brutal reality check. The irony is, when you were in their life, they probably didn't even notice these things. They didn't appreciate the way you cared, the time you spent, the effort you put into the relationship. But now, every happy couple they see serves as a glaring reminder of the happiness they let slip through their fingers. And here's the real kicker. While they're stuck seeing what they lost, you're not stuck waiting for them to realize it. You're moving forward, building your life, and growing stronger with every step. You're not living in the past, but they are. They can't escape the constant reminders of the love and care you offered them, and it's eating away at them. Those happy couples, they're a reflection of what they could have had if they'd only valued you. So let them feel it. Let them face the reality that while they're watching happy couples, you're moving on, creating your own happiness. Here's your affirmation. I am my own happiness. Drop it in the comments and let the world know where you stand. You're not waiting for someone to complete you. You're out there living your best life while they sit there, haunted by what they lost. Things are really starting to crumble for them, but it's about to get even worse. Stay tuned, because next, we'll cover how they face social events all alone. Don't miss this next step. It's key. Number 7. They face social events all alone. So folks, after you've given them the absence treatment, another hard truth hits them. They start facing social events all alone. That's right, those parties, gatherings, and events they once attended with you by their side. Now they're walking into those situations without your support, and trust me, it's uncomfortable for them. At first, they might act like they don't care, trying to put on a brave face. But as time goes on, the reality sets in. When you were there, they had someone to rely on, someone who made them feel confident, comfortable, and complete in social settings. You brought ease into their life, whether it was with your conversations, your presence, or simply your ability to make them feel seen and understood. Now they're standing there alone, and it's awkward. Every small talk, every interaction feels a little emptier without you. They glance around and see couples and groups of friends, and it reminds them of what's missing, you. That energy, that dynamic, it's gone. They didn't realize how much you anchored them in those social settings until you weren't there. It's even worse when they're at events where they see familiar faces. People might ask, "Where's so-and-so?" And that question digs at them. They can't escape the fact that your absence is noticeable, not just to them, but to others. They're left stumbling through conversations, feeling like something important is missing. Meanwhile, you're thriving. You're out there attending your own events, creating your own moments, and showing up for yourself. You're not the one facing that awkwardness. They are. They're the ones realizing how much your presence once lifted them up, and now that support is gone. Let them feel it. Let them navigate those events alone, because that's the price they pay for taking you for granted. Here's your affirmation. I am complete on my own. Drop it in the comments and let the world know where you stand. You're not waiting for anyone to make you whole. You're out there owning every room you walk into, while they struggle to stand tall without you. It's getting uncomfortable for them now, but we're not done. Stick with me, because next, we're diving into the moment they start hearing about your achievements. You're going to want to hear how this affects them. Stay with me. Number 8. They hear about your achievements. So folks, after you've given them the absence treatment and moved on, there's something that really stings. They start hearing about your achievements. That's right. While they're stuck in their emotional mess, trying to fill the void you left, you're out there thriving, and people are noticing. And eventually, those whispers of your success reach their ears. At first, they might brush it off, thinking it doesn't matter. They'll come back to me eventually. But as your achievements stack up, it becomes impossible to ignore. They start hearing about your wins, whether it's a promotion, a new project, or even just you living your best life, and it hits them hard. They thought you'd be stuck waiting for them to realize your worth, but now they see you flourishing without them. This realization is brutal for them. They might even feel a sense of panic because they didn't expect you to rise so quickly. They thought they had more time, that you'd be stuck in the same place, waiting for them to come around. But no, while they were busy taking you for granted, you were out there leveling up. Hearing about your success from others is worse for them because it's out of their control. It's one thing to see you succeed, but when they hear about it through mutual friends, social media, or even random conversations, it stings even more. It's like the universe is making sure they know just how well you're doing without them. And let's be honest, they never saw it coming. While they're struggling to keep up, you're setting new goals and achieving them. You're no longer tied to their validation. In fact, your absence from their life has allowed you to grow. And now they're the ones left wondering what could have been if they hadn't taken you for granted. Here's your affirmation. I thrive without them. Drop it in the comments and let the world know where you stand. You're not just surviving, you're thriving, achieving, and becoming the person they'll wish they never let go of. This is where they really start to feel the weight of their mistakes. But there's more. Stay tuned, because up next, we'll cover when they finally recognize those mistakes. Trust me, you'll want to hear this part. Number 9, they finally recognize their mistakes. So folks, after you've stepped back, given them the absence treatment, and moved on with your life, there comes a moment they can't avoid any longer. They finally recognize their mistakes. It takes time, but trust me, it happens. They start piecing together the moments where they took you for granted, the times they overlooked your worth, and it hits them like a ton of bricks. At first, they might have thought you'd always be around, that they could treat you however they wanted, and you'd still be there. But as the silence stretches, as they feel the weight of your absence, it becomes crystal clear to them. They messed up. They realize they had someone incredible right in front of them, and they let it slip through their fingers. This realization doesn't come easy for them. It's painful because they know there's no going back to how things were. They might replay old conversations, think back to the times you showed up for them, supported them, cared for them unconditionally, and now they're left with nothing but regret. All those small moments, all the times they brushed you aside, suddenly feel like huge mistakes. And here's the truth. The longer they sit with it, the more it eats away at them. They start wondering, what if I hadn't been so careless? Or what if I had treated them better? But now it's too late. You've moved on, and they're stuck with the knowledge that they're the reason things fell apart. They finally see their mistakes for what they are, missed opportunities to appreciate someone who brought real value to their life. While they're swimming in regret, you're thriving. You're not the one stuck in the past, questioning what could have been. You're building a future where you're valued and appreciated. They finally recognize their mistakes, but by now, you've grown too far beyond them to turn back. Here's your affirmation. I am irreplaceable. Drop it in the comments and let the world know where you stand. You're not the one looking back. They are. They're stuck realizing that the best thing they had is the one thing they lost for good.